Welcome to the Birchsalt Cottage Garden. Today marks our first spring garden tour. My name is Kate and I live in Maine, Garden Zone 5B. I thought it would be a good place to start at the cut flowers stand. We just built it, my husband and I, this is now in its third week. I just love how it came out, and you'll see I was able to cut some flowers from the tulip garden, as I'm calling it right now. And I think it's just a really sweet and lovely display, and I've had a great response from friends, family, and neighbors, and I just love how it flanks the opening of the garden. So I'm going to put my shades on because the sun is coming out, and my mom is filming in the street right now, so I want her to come out and we'll just take a peek at some of the gardens along the front of the house. And I think that these are just so lovely. Before we move on, all the different variations. These tulips I got from Color Blends, the bulbs that I planted last fall, and they've just really performed wonderfully, and I'm harvesting them, bulbs and all, and storing them in a cool, dark place until they're ready to come out for the cut flower stand. They last a lot longer when you have the bulbs attached. So that's been a big success. And everything that you see here is all new. Over the last 3 years or so, I've been working on developing this space and really turning it into the cottage garden of my dreams. So here you'll see we have a picket fence, and this is new as of last spring. I noticed this side of our house gets full sun, at least 6 to 8 hours of full sun a day. The backyard, when we'll go back through that, I'll show you, gets pretty much part sun. So I realize there's a good opportunity to do as much planting as possible in the front side of the house. Right now, you'll see I have quite a few tulips and some daffodils dotting the front yard right by the picket fence. I have some perennials that are coming back. And if you notice as well, I have a few dead things remaining in these beds. That does serve a purpose, I promise. These are fall annuals from last year, so I think mostly mums. I left them in place. That way when I get my summer annuals, I know where to plop my summer annuals, if that makes sense. They're spaced pretty much 3 feet apart, which is ideal for the summer annuals that I grow, which are supertunias, so the Super Vista Tunias. Vista Supertunias. They're from Proven Winners. I had a great response from them last year. They really love this space. I did the bubblegum Super Vista Tunias, and they just made a beautiful swoop in this area, and I'm hoping to do something similar. Not exactly the same color. I'm gonna do the jazzberry, which is kind of a cooler purplish tone than the bubblegum Supertunias. So anywho, so those will get replaced soon. I actually just got confirmation this morning from Proven Winners that they're gonna be shipping the summer annuals, so I'm really excited about that. Now, these daffodils are the first daffodils that I've planted in this space, and I have really enjoyed them. They make wonderful cut flowers too, very fragrant. So I think I'll be planting even more for this fall. So that's been a happy addition. The foxglove, this I started from seed last year, and I was worried it may not come back because of the deep freeze that we had. I lost quite a few plants, as I'll show you. Unfortunately, this past winter we had deep freezes, I think a period of 1 to 2 weeks where with a wind chill we got negative 30 to 50. I'm looking at my mom to see, I think that's what we had. Yeah. So even though I had a few plants that did perish from the deep freeze this winter, I still have some perennials that are coming back, which is really exciting. This foxglove I started from seed last year, and I'm happy to report pretty much all of my foxgloves are returning, and we've had a lot of rain, which this foxglove is absolutely loving. I'm not sure if this variety of foxglove is a biannual, meaning that it will bloom every other year, which I think most foxgloves are. For whatever reason, I'm thinking the seed packet said it was annual, but even with that, I'm not expecting to have blooms on this year since we did last year. It would be a happy surprise if we did have a bloom on it. However, I think just for the foliage alone, it's really pretty. You'll see some more tulips. Was it last year? I had planted lily bulbs, and they didn't do anything last year, but I'm happy to report I have one popping up here, and then I'll show you on the other side of the other picket fence I have more coming up. So that was exciting to see that come up. Some really pretty tulips and a almost pastel yellow color. I think that they play off the daffodils really nicely. So pretty much, oh, here's another lily right here. So those will be really, really nice. I'm toying with the idea of adding in more perennials to this bed, but I do find that I love adding in annuals each year, and I don't really add any annuals to the backside garden, the main cottage garden, so I may just keep this area light with perennials and just keep doing my swoops every year. Over here on this side of the driveway, actually on both sides of the driveway, that's where I'm adding in more perennials. And one of my favorites happens to be sedum. This is autumn joy sedum. It has interest all year long. It turns a beautiful burnt orange color in the fall, and I believe in springtime it's almost like a white pinkish color as it's erupting. That has been fun. Here are some blue bearded irises that are coming up. I do believe that they are native to Maine as well, which is nice. I'd like to incorporate more native plants as well. Incredible hydrangea in a basket. This is going on, I see a weed. This is going on its 3rd year in a basket. The basket is deteriorating, so I will have to replace that at some point this year. But it is very, very happy. And it gives a little height to this area too, and plays off nicely to this prairie fire crabapple tree. This is also new as of last spring. Maybe I should just retire saying that because I think most of everything that you see here is new as of last year or the year before. It's actually been really great because we just took maybe a 5-minute break and we had 2 customers buy 3 big bundles of flowers. So that is really exciting. I just put out the stand maybe 20 minutes ago. So that's great news, a great response. All right, so yes, this area I'm working on having it be a little bit more of a perennial bed and then saving the rest for a lot of annuals. I think that's really fun to try out different colors each year. I was nicely surprised because I thought I had lost my sage. It's called Sage Advice from Proven Winners. Again, from winter. Or there are some little buds starting, so I think that'll be really nicely. One of the blue fescues that I have unfortunately did die, so I'll just replace that. That's pretty easy to do. I'll pop it out and pop it a new one. And then here, this poor little guy unfortunately got demolished this winter. We had snowbanks, especially over here from the plow, from our snow blower, and just the amount of snow we got this year. There was probably 5 to 6 feet of snow sitting on him. So all of the growth that I had the year before is gone. It has just been wiped out. There's maybe one or two branches holding on. This is a Seven Suns tree. Let's see, Temple of Bloom, maybe what it's better known as. And this is a pretty, I guess it's considered a shrub that you can prune into a tree. And it is in its 3rd year, but it was just wiped out again from this winter. I may have to move it and put it in a different space. I was thinking this would be eventually nice and create a little bit more shade and interest to this area here along with the crabapple tree. So that's tentative. He's not dead, he's just maybe a little traumatized. So we'll keep an eye on him. Dotted through here, I planted some Glowmaster alliums, which are essentially giant purple flowers that look like they're from Dr. Seuss. And I thought they would be really nice to add in some height to the fence, and I can do some underplantings underneath. So I have a couple of those. Another foxglove. Over here, I just planted a baby bleeding heart. I had found out back I have a big bleeding heart, and it self-seeded itself in the garden somehow. Probably when I was harvesting the blooms and I was running around the backyard, the seeds probably just went all over the place. So I noticed this little baby seedling, dug it up, put it in a pot, overwintered it, and it did really well. So I decided to plant it back here because this is pretty naked back here. So after these tulips go, after the daffodils go, after the alliums go, this will really explode in this area. And we get a lot of shade too from these trees. So I think it'll love its life in this area because they are part shade lovers. Over here we have an entire hedge of lilacs. This I did not plant. This is probably the one thing, yes, the one thing in this whole area that I did not plant. And I just love the show that they put on throughout the spring. So we have quite a few buds. Last year I made the mistake of pruning them too early, and they really need to have a lot of time to soak up sun in order to have blooms next year. I guess I bloomed them too late. So what you want to do is after they're done blooming, then you want to prune them so that they have the entire summer to soak up all of the nutrients it needs for blooms the next year. You'll see I have quite a bit of unfinished business underneath these lilac trees. At some point this year, I will be finishing up digging up all of this underneath the hydrangea hedge and doing some underplantings there. So that will be a good project to stay tuned for and see what we can do with this space over underneath the hydrangea hedge. Okay, thank you. We also just had somebody else buy 2 more bundles of tulips. So we started with 8 and now we're down to 2. So I'll have to refresh those soon. Now for the piece de resistance. It's the cottage garden. Here now we have a little bit of shade. This all again was a blank slate 3 years ago. I think the previous owner had a boat just parked out in this yard and nothing else. It's been a lot of hard work digging up the sod, adding in the gravel, and just really adding in each piece by piece. I started with one single raised bed in the corner and just planted potatoes, believe it or not. In my family, I come from a potato farmer. My great-grandfather was a potato farmer, and I wanted to pay homage. Is it homage or homage? What is it?
Homage.
Okay.
Or tribute, you can say.
So I wanted to pay tribute to him with my first bed, and I grew potatoes. So this whole area started with just a single 4x4 raised bed with potatoes. It's amazing what you can do and accomplish with a little bit of creativity and hard work. So in the front, we have 2 beds that are flanking the entrance of the cottage garden, or I guess I also refer to it as the potager garden, the kitchen garden. I was growing more produce last year. However, I've transitioned into growing more cut flowers, as you'll see. But before we get into the garden, you'll see we have 2 incredible hydrangeas that are flanking the entrance. I love hydrangeas. They do really well for us in this area. We do have a little bit of acidic soil in this area, which they tend to like. And these just get giant, and they have these giant white snowball flowers that turn a beautiful fall color. So these are great interest all year long. I have a lot of cleanup to do still. I've played with leaving leaf material in my bed so that they break down and add in some more nutrients into the soil. So I tend to just leave some of my fall leaves in the beds and then just top them off with fresh compost each spring, or at least that's what I've started doing. I have just another little blue flag iris coming up. Mostly this is all tulips. I am still developing this bed. I think I want to add in another perennial in here. These tulips are on their second year. I didn't have the best luck with them returning back. You'll see I have quite a few just foliage of these tulips and not a lot of blooms. And even with the blooms, some of these aren't the biggest blooms. Compared to in the back, I'll show you, I have a whole swoop of white, I believe they're Vidal tulips from Color Blends that are on their fourth year or third year, and they're doing really nicely. This down here is a clematis. This is a pink mint clematis that is just starting. I cut it back to about 12 inches in the fall, and it starts to leaf out in early spring, and before you know it, this will cover the entire trellis as it did last year, and it will just bush out. I try to follow the guidance of hot head, cold feet with clematis. They like to have their heads warm and their feet cold, or their roots colder or cooler. That's just a guide. And then here I have two David Austin James Galloway roses, climbing roses, that are enveloping finally this trellis. I believe these are the first plants that I planted 3 years ago. I had this vision of creating the entrance first and then worrying about the rest of the garden as time went on. And these have just been so wonderful. This year we are officially going to have them connect and reach together, which will be really exciting. So over here I have my already pre-sprouted dahlias and then some seedlings that I just brought outside. I'm in the process of hardening off. Don't look too closely because I did forget about the seedlings a little bit, so some of them are crispy, some of them did die, but we still have quite a few. Here I have a laced up elderberry. It's supposed to stay a little bit more compact and I think get about 6 feet tall. So I think that'll be nice in a few years. And I have a few other really pretty things, some more iris, and then I just planted a serendipity allium, which is a smaller version of the Globemaster allium. It's just little, let me show you. So this kind of allium stays a little bit more, whoops, compact. Yeah, you're right. All right, so just briefly showing the greenhouse. I did have a base put on the bottom of this to elevate the space. We typically have some flooding and a lot of ice and snow that had previously, I guess, pooled in this area, and we wanted to raise it up a little bit, that way it wasn't sitting in water. So it's been a success. Last year we didn't have that problem. And just inside, I installed a little antique chandelier. I still need to figure out about the plug situation. Basically, I just need to get a special two-pronged extension cord. And I just converted the woodworking bench that I had previously given my husband. He wasn't using it, so I decided to take it. I still have to work on the curtain situation because it is falling. I'm gonna see if maybe I can have my mom sew it into a nice curtain for me. We'll see. Anywho, this has been great, a great source of shelter when it's raining, when it's cold out, and a good place to start hardening off some of my seedlings is what I used it for already. That that pretty much sums up the side cottage garden. Let me take you to the other side of the house and then the backyard. Here I am working on creating a green privacy screening. You'll see we have the garbage containers over here. Not necessarily the cutest thing to look at, so I thought a way to remediate that situation would be to try and do a sweet pea screening fence. I have lined all along here some sweet pea starts. I've been fertilizing them weekly with some fish food emulsion, so I'm hoping that will encourage them to bloom and leaf out here shortly, especially when we get some warmer weather. I'm hoping they'll really start to pick up. But I just made a simple fencing out of some leftover bamboo stakes that I had and some twine, so hopefully when I'm sitting in the garden I don't have to see the recycling containers. We've made it to the other side of the picket fence that is essentially welcoming the front door. We have on this side still some foxgloves. I did have a few snapdragons that survived the winter. Again, those all I started from seed last year, so that's really exciting. I'll have less to replace on this side. We have some more of those beautiful pale pink and pale yellow tulips that play off nicely of the daffodils. I have some really pretty, I believe these are knockout roses. They're just a pink. They were here to begin with in this house. They were flanking these stairs and I moved them and I actually divided this rose. I didn't know you could do that, but I just tried it and it worked. This is the division from that rose. I have some veronica and some pincushion flowers. Well, only one pincushion flower that survived. That's coming back. These are, I believe, the Au Pair's version of Color Blend's daffodils. They are one of my favorites. I think I said that before, but I'll say it again. I'm going to plant more of those. Here we have a nice evergreen shrub. This is called Mr. Bowling Ball. I'm trying to work on not only adding fall interest to the garden, but more greenery. I think it's nice to have that interest, especially during winter time. We're in winter, gosh, five months. We have cold, dark, snowy weather, and it's nice to have some greenery to look at and for the snow to kind of nestle on, because there's really not a whole lot you can look at. So that is also another goal. I have some hostas coming up. Interestingly enough, I thought I had dug up and moved all of these, and they're surprising me now. It's funny because I just planted 20 gladiolus the other week or 2 weeks ago that are just starting to come up. I don't know how I didn't hit or dig into the hostas. I must have gone around all of them because I did not notice them when I was planting them. So it's going to be a gladiolus and hosta garden, at least until I cut the gladiolus for the cut flower stand. And I'm hoping to do a succession planting of the gladiolus. That way I can harvest every couple of weeks in the summertime. And I think it's about 90 days from planting to harvest of gladiolus. So I've never seen that before, a gladiolus and hosta garden, but we're going to see it together. So that'll be interesting. We do have to cut the grass, but I think that's a good thing. With all this rain, it's really pushed everything out and has encouraged them to leaf out. Just quickly back here, I have a delphinium that I started from seed last year that's coming back. I started a few more this year that I will be planting some more. It had this beautiful light blue, light purple color to the flowers, which was really pretty. And the pollinators absolutely love the delphinium, so we have more of that coming their way. You'll notice this beautiful limelight hydrangea tree that is just starting to bud out. The pollinators go wild for this tree. It's almost like the whole colony comes over and they spend time over enjoying the pollen at this tree. This has wonderful fall interest. It turns into this bright, I guess, maybe not so bright, but a lighter pink blush in the fall. It's really pretty. This is also new as of last year. I wanted to create a walking path which will eventually connect through the entire backyard of the house. We have some creeping phlox that is just about to bloom. Another lilac tree, which is really beautiful. I try to work on getting all the little buds at the bottom in early spring because I really want to encourage growth up at the top of the tree. I want to make sure that there's airflow in the bottom, and I think the structure of the branches looks really nice anyway. So I just come around, and if I see a little bud starting, I take them off. That way he encourages growth and blooms at the top of the tree. And I've tried to create a little archway, which it does. It did last year. It's really nice between the hydrangea and the lilac to have those two intermingle. Here's a spirea. It's giant. I think this might be a wedding day spirea. I'm not quite sure the official name, but it's a white spirea, and I use it for cut flowers. Back over here, I'm working on developing a shade garden. So some hostas. I have an Empress Wu hosta I just planted, and then all of these hostas under here are donated to me from my neighbors across the street. So they have so many hostas they can't even count, and they know who to call to get rid of them. So here you'll see the extension of the gravel walkway, and back here has been a nice perennial garden. This is essentially all perennials back here. We have this beautiful arborvitae. I previously cut a swirl into it, which I think I'll do that again. You can see little remnants of it. This is a beautiful azalea, which is just budding up. It's a pink azalea. I don't know the official name. I have a few globemaster alliums dotted throughout that are in their second year. They look a little bit on the smaller end, so I don't know what I'm expecting for bloom size. So we'll see. Stay tuned on that. And then don't look too closely at the fountain. It's crooked, it's wonky, it's broken. It had fallen in a previous windstorm, and I tried to patch it up with fiberglass just by myself. And she still holds water, and she's still standing, maybe not straight up, but it works, so that's good. We'll take that. I'm working on creating a peony garden around the fountain. For the last couple of years, I've planted one peony each year. I have a peony, it's called Julia Rose peony. It's really pretty. That's in its 6th year. So that was here before we moved in. And then I have another peony, which I don't see a tag for. I think this is Sherbert. This is called Sherbert. And then I just have a new one that I planted last fall, Lady Alexandra Duff. So I think that'll be so pretty when those are all in bloom. And then this is also a really nice rhododendron that I planted 2 years ago. So that's this side garden. I do have a few daffodils over here. I think I will plant a few more. Oh, and I can't forget this tall phlox, which is called early flamingo. It's starting to spread, so I will be dividing that this fall. Okay, let's move over to this side of the backyard. This is all new development. I have, for the majority of the time, focused my time and energy on the side cottage garden, but this year I'll be focusing more of my energy back here. These are slow growing. I got them from Home Depot. They're little arborvitaes. I think they're called thujas, thuja giant. I got them for $10 each in little cans. They may be planted too closely together, but I almost don't want to. I'm almost hoping that they kind of sort it out themselves, because I don't want to take them up and plant them further apart just yet. So they've got a ways to go. I know that they'll take quite a while until they are tall enough to add a little bit of a screen, but they were cheap, $10 a piece. You just have to have a little patience. That's the name of the game with gardening. But I think that'll be really nicely when they do start to pick up more growth. I mean, they were right about here, this rung, so some of them have grown a bit more. This is pretty new as of last week for most of these plants. That's the bigger bleeding heart that I was talking about that had seeded itself in another area. I have some Corabel's heuchera, some lamb's ear, another serendipity allium. It's going to be more of a white, yellow, and purple garden back here. I think that'll be really pretty with some plays of some pinks, and now I have this as the newest addition, which is called Cannon's Double Azalea. Again, focusing on the fall interest, this will have some bright red foliage in the fall, and then look at these blooms are like an apricot color. They're just pale, really pretty. You'll see this blue extension cord I have laid out. That's to give me a guide with creating the bed, the new bed. So I extended it out this way, and we're gonna continue on. And for the last two plants, I was planting a nice dark purple astilbe. This is called Dark Side of the Moon, which I thought would play really nicely with the dark foliage of the heuchera. And then lastly, we have a dwarf birch called Sesky Gold. Sesky Gold. So we're really gonna work on this backyard this year, and I think it'll really come together nicely. And now that I'm talking, I forgot I planted another peony back here. And this one is Primavera. It's got a light white and yellow creamy color. And I do have some also creeping phlox that I divided and put up in this back area. Okay. Well, that concludes the first garden tour of the year, and I'm really excited to see what we can develop this year, what's growing, and I think that the tulips blooming right now are just a showstopper. So thank you so much for joining. I hope you stay tuned for our next monthly garden tour, where I really think we'll have a lot of growth. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Future Kate here while editing this video. Just want to say apologies for the sound. I do live off of a busy street, so just as a disclaimer, there may be some instances where you hear more car sounds than I would like. I hope you still enjoyed the video and seeing the beautiful things that are being showcased in the garden right now. So I hope to see you next time. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.